So I mean, yeah. What's some of the benefits you guys? I'm sure you've dated Korean guys before, right?
I actually haven't.
You haven't?
No.
Have you dated? I'm sure you've dated black girls, right?
Yeah. Plenty.
So is there any type of difference when
Of
you're
course.
dating? Like, speak on that.
I don't know. Well, like for one thing, like she's just raised completely different from me, let alone like other women I've dated, who have been like black. I mean, it's just different. It's just different. Just
In what sense though? Like, what do you mean by raised differently?
So, for example, like the black women that I've dated, have been like raised like me with black parents having to deal with black things. She's Asian and white. She didn't have to deal with like black things or like kind of black issues. So yeah, she may know like a lot of black people, but I mean, we were just raised completely different. I don't know, just from like temperament to like how you like react to things. It's just, it's all just different.
Would you say she's more calm or more high tempered than you?
Than me?
Mm-hmm.
She's definitely way more high tempered than me. Like way more.
I feel like I'm the same way. My boyfriend's like totally a calm guy, and I'm just like over here like like,
we're like,
what's
what the hell is
going on?
wrong with you, you crazy person?
That's the balance, the yin and the yang.
Yeah, right.
Ain't no
So-
balance in that.
I actually
It's
met my
terror.
boyfriend in Korea, in Itaewon, like a little America.
Huh.
And then I met him there. We dated in Korea for about a year, and then we moved to United States together. And when I was out there, I was like kind of showing him around and him and his friends. And it was literally me, and he's a tall dude. He's dark skinned, like about your complexion, and he's like 6'4". And his friends are all like 6 foot or taller. So all these like 5, 6 different black guys are walking behind me. I'm over here like la la la, like just walking around, like showing them, like telling them where to go and stuff. Everybody used to stare at us so bad, and everybody thought that they were basketball players.
Team.
And then they were all in military too, so they're all jacked up and stuff. And everybody, all these freaking Korean girls would like hang on to them, cling on to them, and be like, "Hey, let me take some pictures and stuff." And I'm over here.
What the fuck?
Cause like, what the heck,
Bruh.
I'm over here
Like,
too,
it's-
yo, like, what's up? But it was like good view in Korea.
So
It wasn't really like, like, what the heck are you doing?
How'd your
You know?
parents take it?
So my parents knew that I wasn't gonna be dating Korean guy,
that's
like when I was young.
Let me ask you about. You said I want to ask. Well, go ahead and say. You was gonna say it just now. You said when you were
What?
young, they knew that. How did they know that when you were young?
So my first long-term relationship was this black guy. He called himself like white mix, but he was like straight up black. He's like, "Oh, I'm Cherokee too," or whatever. But and he's like, "Oh, can I meet your dad?" Like and my dad wanted to meet a guy that I was dating too, because we've been dating for like roughly a year or so, and it was my first serious relationship. On my brother's college graduation, I took him to the graduation. And he was in his motorcycle, and he was African American dude that walked into the auditorium with me. And when I walked in, not only he was riding a bike, which was a big no-no for my dad, like such a religious, like traditional person, he was late, and he was just not put together 100%. So when we were all sitting together, it was like the most awkward moment of my life. And as soon as that graduation was over, my dad was just like not talking to me. And we got into a really big argument.
That's the big thing, dude. Like in Korean culture, well, I feel like if you're gonna meet any parent for the first time, like you can't be late. You gotta act like you give a fuck.
Right, but I understood his reasonings because he actually didn't know where it was happening. He got confused on the locations, so he was late. And because he was a little late, he was all nervous, and it was like first time meeting him, and he knew it was a big thing for everybody.
Right.
So because of all of this, he was getting, nervous, and my dad was kind of pissed off, but even more because it was a family function kind of thing.
Right.
Right.
So
So-
not because he was black, but just because of.
Everything mixed into it. And everything. And it was just not a very good relationship either. So because of all the little thing that was adding up to race included in it, my dad was just like not with it.
I don't want to say it's not accepted, but the reason it's people actually I guess it is. People don't really accept it that much, like especially the older generation in Korea. I'm not sure why. I made guesses, and my guess was that when the Korean War happened, there was a lot of GIs there, and there was a lot of bad shit that went down. So that generation of people, like, I guess they just didn't like outsiders, I guess you could say.
It makes sense though. Like I totally understand because when I was in Korea, when I first met my boyfriend, he was in Air Force, and as soon as I met him and I found out that he was in the military, I even straight up told him, I was like, hey, you do realize what you are here. You're not supposed to date Korean girls. You're not supposed to get serious with me. Because you guys back in the day in the 50s, you literally rape all the girls.
Yeah.
And you would just get them, pregnant, and you will leave because all you have to do is be in this Korean country for a year or two, whatever it took, and then you will leave. And there were so many babies, and that, like what we were talking about earlier, abortion thing.
Yeah.
So many adoptions were happening from Korea because all these GIs will get the girls pregnant and
They just
raped,
dip.
and then they will dip, and the parents will be left behind, and these girls will have to have babies, but it wasn't societally accepted at the time yet.
Right.
So what was it that attracted you to African Americans as opposed to?
So growing
Black
up,
people.
I grew up in very countryside in Maryland, and for me, I went to private schools, and I was dealing with a lot of just very, very countryside people,
Yeah.
to be nice. And even though I was like best friends with all the girls and boys, I wasn't really one of them. And I didn't really have any Asian friends. That's the reason why I wasn't able to date any Koreans. And my dad is a pastor, so for me to actually date anybody in Korean society in such a small community,
It's pretty tough.
it was really hard because everybody talks to each other, everybody knows each other's family.
Right.
So Korean was out of the way, right? And then there wasn't any other Asians, so that was out of the question. And when I look at all the other friends, all my just regular guy friends were white guys, and I didn't really see them as like sexually appealing because they were such my buddy guys. So when I met some of the black guys or Hispanic guys, I was just like, hey, I don't know this before. I never knew this before. So I kind of got interested in it. And when I actually met my first boyfriend, he introduced me to so many different things about the cultures. And I found out how much of a common things that we actually shared culturally. That's when I got drawn into other minorities, I guess, in the United States. So, yeah.
That's good though, because I really do feel like you should date out of your race because it kind of opens your mind up a little bit. Because when I was just dating strictly Korean people when I was younger, it was like, as I grew older, I realized how you're just in that bubble. You know what I'm saying? And you don't really know what's out there, how much you can learn from other cultures and shit. So I'm kind of glad you said that. And I feel like a lot of people need to do that, man. Like, you got to get out of that bubble. It's kind of like people who don't travel.
Right.
People who, like, let's say people who grew up in Duluth, Georgia, right? They've never left Duluth, Georgia, like, ever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They've never gone to another state, another country, or whatever the case may be. But that's all they know. And I feel like, dating is kind of like that. If you're just dating that one race, I mean, that's not going to... I mean, if you love that person, fine. But, I mean, that's you're stuck in that bubble, dude.
Right.
You're not gonna... You got to open your mind up a little bit.
You have to expand your palate.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So was this your first interracial relationship, or had you had previous ones?
This is my first interracial. Yeah, it's my first interracial relationship. Yeah.
What about her?
No, that wasn't hers.
Was she just dating, like, Korean people?
No. Well, she had dated a couple black people and then I guess some Koreans. And then,
So what about your boyfriend? Is this his first interracial relationship?
No, I think he dated around. Like I know when he was in Europe, when he was stationed out in Europe, I knew he was dating one of the white girls. And just growing up, he grew up in Panama as well as Orlando, Florida. So growing up in those countries, like in cities, you're not gonna be able to just date strictly your race. And even
Right.
in Latin society alone, they're not just white or black or whatever. There's so many different types.
So is it common in Korea to see, how often do you see interracial relationships or
Oh,
couples
man.
there?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, but you got to keep in
Wow.
mind too, though. Like,
There aren't that many out there.
yeah, 95% of the population is Korean.
Right.
So
You
there's
know what I'm
not
saying?
much to, you don't see it a lot because there's not a pool to choose from.
Yeah,
Right.
What about Korean Americans though?
Korean American. Well, like
Korean American is Korean American, literally.
So are they, but I'm saying, what about them dating outside of their Korean heritage? Do you see that then here as there's, like you said, it's mostly Koreans.
right.
What about here where it's like a melting pot and it's everything? Do you see them dating outside?
I think it depends on how American you are.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good way to put it. Because there's some kids out there, man. Like they move. Like okay, so Duluth, Georgia, right? That's like the Koreatown of Atlanta. Fucking everybody's Korean. Everything is Korean over there.
Right.
So I know kids who have moved here. They've lived here for like 5 to 10 years, and they still can't speak English because they're just in Duluth.
wow.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's so many Koreans.
You don't have to
You don't have to
speak
speak
English.
English.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
So, shit. What was I gonna say? So yeah, like you said, the more American you are, I think that's when it starts to change a little bit. Because even as a Korean American guy, like back in the day, if you were to meet, we call it a fob, fresh off the boat, like straight off from Korea, the culture, there's still a cultural difference there, dating that strictly just Korean person.
Right.
So it's a little easier to, it's more comfortable to date other races because at the end of the day, you are more American, I guess. Yeah. But these days, I do see it more than that I did before. Because back in the day, it was really still like Koreans dating other Koreans, whether you're Korean American or not. But lately, I have been seeing more interracial relationships.
I mean, like how Andy was saying earlier, like old traditional people really don't understand the whole interracial kind of thing.
right.
Like they're very traditional. And then there are those people out here still, and they don't change their mindset even though they're living in the United States.
That's an issue.
So because of that, they're going to raise their kid in certain ways, and the kids are going to grow up to be just like their parents, and you're going to have that kind of same mentality, a old
Right.
school mentality, and you just don't mix.
Would you say that our race is the most accepting race of interracial relationships?
Well, I feel weird kind of answering that. I mean, because I would say yes, but then again, I can't really speak for everybody. Because I know other black people who like couldn't bring somebody else, like home other than like a black person.
Really?
But
Oh
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Don't play that.
Mm-mm.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
I,
Especially like black. Funny thing. So, somebody that I knew, the older lady was like, "You can bring anything to my house except for
no
white
white
people."
woman.
Right.
Yeah.
For real?
Except for
Yeah,
white people.
don't bring no white
Really?
bitch in this house.
Why
no
is
girls.
that?
Yeah.
Nah.
that's
Nope.
it. Now, the crazy thing is when I grew up, I think I hung around and kind of kicked it with white people a lot. So when it was time to go to college, my mom was like, "We really need to find yourself. We really need to figure out you." And I was trying to go to school at Florida State. She forced me to go to a HBCU, which was South Carolina State, which is a great move. Thank you, Mom. But she said I needed to find myself and my people because I didn't date a lot of black people, a lot of black women in high school.
Shame.
Well, I have to explain why. I just felt intimidated, like, man, I ain't good enough. I really felt like they were, like the women were just up there. I just really felt like that. So when I got to South Carolina State, I was able to find myself and really, get myself acclimated to my own culture. Like, she was right. I needed that. That was a very important point in my life.
Really?